Okay, that is allowed by rule. It says allowed one touch, interpretation. In addition, coaches were told about this. I told them at the coaches meeting. One is good, and Buddy reinforced it also, so they heard both of us saying it. I can measure, but once I start to go multiples, that's going to be a foul. Question? Okay. Question here, then there, then here.
Is there a difference between a stationary ball handler and a mover?
Okay, the question is there a difference between a stationary ball handler or a player dribbling the ball? There is not. There is not, because that was asked also. Because as you read, and this is where, when the coaches ask the questions and being prepared for them, even at the meeting, the rule says a dribbler or ball handler. Because if Ray's here, he's a ball handler, and I have this, and as a fish, I'm just going to give you an analogy. As the official in the lead, you want to have the majority, 80% of your weight on your back foot. Why? Because if you're here, you're more to blow a foul. If you're here, you let it process. You let it go through. Here, the air is up here, you got a whistle, but you're letting plays start, develop, and finish, and then deciding if you need a whistle. Same thing up here. 80% of my weight's on my front foot, so I'm impeding because I'm like this. So that's with a stationary player, just a ball handler, not a dribbler. That's why it's on the ball handler too. Does that make sense? A question here, then here? Okay. Yes, Danny's thing was that one measure could be a foul because sometimes they're thinking about where they're going to go. Yeah, A to B. It could be. And that's, you know what? That's our tough job as officials. That's our gray area. And the difficult part of it is being consistent as a crew, being consistent as officials, as a board, as a state. So, I mean, that's why we really have to bear down and understand the rule. I need to show more videos on that also. We had the video plays at the beginning of the year. Just revisit those. I have here in the new pad. Question was in here somewhere? Yes. G. Well, Ray without the ball. If Ray's flashing up to the post, to the key, right there, that's impede. That's foul. That's why I say with the rids. Remember things, I try to think of tricks that helps me remember during the game, and those little things help. Pat?
Back in the old days, we used to do preventive maintenance. Watch your hands, watch your hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good now.
Pat's thing was, back in the day, we did preventive officiating maintenance. Watch your hands, watch your hands. We have a new breed of coaches out there, and it's like they're on some other level they think they are, or they want to get to a level, which is okay. They want to get to a level, but don't let them influence what we do out there. Over the years, I hardly ever talk to players anymore. If I do, it may be very close, because once you say, get your hands off, that opposing coach will say, just call a foul. Or his or her coach may say, don't coach my players. And I've heard that said before. We are our own worst enemies at those times. We're creating things that hurt us. So let's stay away from that. If you could, during free throws, mention, but after a while, second half, we should be talking to players. They know, and as Al said, he was a coach. Players are only allowed what we allow them to do, and they're going to carry that on and on and on. Question?
On Madden, I understand the thing that extend the forearm when the young lady that asked the question to impede impeding the post player coming forward. The question is, what is the signal? Is it a hand check or just the hit push? What's the signal?
The question is, what's the signal when somebody's impeding? And once again, try to use the terminology, 2 hands, extend the forearm, hand check, that's the stayed hand check. Use those different things. And still impede even with the tagging. You don't have to say tagging, hand check. Use that terminology. And coaches have said, what about over the back? Yes, so-and-so went over 40 went over the back of number 20 to get the rebound. They look at me like, okay, why didn't you call a foul? And I don't immediately say it. I say, yes, they went over the back. There wasn't any contact. So right there, you're diffusing it. You agree, yes, they went over the back. Now you're waiting for them to ask you the next question. Wait for them. They will ask you. There wasn't any contact up there than here. John. The question was, is this an extended forearm even though the player dribbles into you? Yes, it is. It has to be on their body. Anything here, extended forearm. In addition with that, by trigger something else here. Coaches ask, what if the offensive player starts to extend? That's why I say, referee the defense, observe the offense. Now we have player control foul. Just because we're focusing on illegal contact with defensive players now, do not let the offensive player have carte blanche by doing all those sorts of things of swim strokes, extensions, and things like this, wrapping. Do not allow them to gain an advantage, not intended by the rules. There was another question? Yes, Arnie?
Do you report now and then extended?
Yes. I mean, if you can say hand check, but if it's in your mind at that time, try wait, 10, extend the forearm. It helps. It helps us. It helps us.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I gotta say, I'm really surprised at some of the questions we're hearing. I'm a big mouth. Article 12 is really nothing new. It really isn't. It just was put in the rule book to clearly define what's already in from Articles 1 through 11. It really is. This has all been fouls forever. It's been our fault not enforcing it. Now, the highest authority in our game, the National Federation, wants the game cleaned up. They did it at the NBA. They did it like some 5-6 years ago. Finally filtered down to college. Now think about it. You had 70 officials in the NBA, roughly. Then you go to Division I and Division II and Division III. Maybe there's 30,000 officials in college. Now we got like 300,000 high school officials that need to carry this to the game. Now I know it's a huge philosophical difference for a lot of us, especially the veteran officials. But you cannot leave here today without calling these fouls. The Federation wants the coaches to coach this, the players to adjust, and us to enforce it. Now, lack of better words, Jeff and Buddy actually stuck our Board 10 neck out to the coaches and said, we are going to call this. And we got to. You cannot leave here today in your mind and say, oh, I'm just going to call my game the way I always did. Because really, these have all been fouls. They've been fouls and we've been letting them go, myself included. And the mindset that we all had was, oh, that's a cheap foul. That's a cheap foul. There have always been fouls. They really have. So please, we have to enforce these rules, and we have to start. It's got to start at the middle school level, biddy basketball, all the way up to varsity. It's our mandate. We're a federation state. They want the game cleaned up. So.
Thanks, Ray. As Ray indicated, at Farnham in the fall league, and once again, mentioning this at the coaches meeting. In the fall league, we enforced this rule. There were games within 3 minutes, we had 7, 8, 10 fouls within 3 minutes. One player received 3 fouls within a minute and a half. As the league went on, the fouls were less and less. And you can hear the coaches, the varsity coaches on the sidelines, you can't do that, that's a new rule. Yes, they were saying that there, but when it's their game, when they're coaching now, it's gonna be different. But they do understand. They do understand, and they have Buddy's phone number. Enforce the rule. Yes, sir.
You discussed game management and the consistency from the first quarter to the fourth quarter.
Game management, consistency from the first quarter to the last quarter. Just remember, enforce the rules as written. IAABO mantra, Federation, POE, last several years, but let's enforce the rules as written from the first quarter to the last quarter, in addition to what Al said during what he had read, no matter the time the game